Happening, everyone. Welcome on into the Check Your Brain podcast. My name is Tony Mazur. Thank you for listening to this on the free podcatchers such as Spotify and Apple Podcasts. Thank you for watching this on Rumble. I may not put it on YouTube, but I'm going to put this on X or Twitter, whatever you want to call it. And if you want more content from me, go over to Patreon at patreon.com/Tony Mazur. There's going to be a part two of the podcast that you're about to hear or watch. That's only going to be on Patreon, so go check that out if you want to. It's available right now if you're listening to this for free. But let's get to the first podcast today, and that is a guest who I've only had on one time. And it was about 4+ years ago on his birthday. I cold called him and I said, you know what? It's my dad's birthday. I'm going to give him a call. And yes, it is my dad. So I'm Tony Mazur. This is Mark Mazur. Welcome to the podcast. Welcome to the Check Your Brain podcast.
Hello, everybody from Patreon.
You should probably talk into the microphone.
Hello, everybody from
I
Patreon.
know, I know it seems a little phallic when you're holding this, but
This is a little awkward.
but it's what we got to do. Otherwise,
I'm Alex Trebek.
Otherwise, I could have just brought this microphone over and we would have done the Lennon and McCartney thing. We just lean over, which sounds a little bit even more homoerotic. But
Yeah, we don't roll that way in this family.
yeah, incest, keep it in the family, please. But I wanted to bring you on board here. I've wanted to do a podcast with you for years with my dad. A lot of people have brought their spouses on, which I have, and bringing in family members, and we just talk about things. But you actually have an interesting background. It'd be one thing if I was someone whose father played Major League Baseball and say like, oh, I'd bring dad on because you could talk about playing in the major leagues and everything. That's a great podcast. If your dad was, I don't know, a tax accountant, maybe once a year on April 14th, you can bring him on and talk about taxes. So, yeah, not really that interesting. But you have had an interesting background of being a police officer. And I wanted to talk about in today's podcast, not just your background, but modern policing as opposed to what you guys did back in the 80s and the 90s during your career. And even when my grandfather, your father, was a police officer as well. And just how things have changed in the digital era where everybody's a photojournalist. Everyone has these phones that have a camera that's attached to them. And yeah, we just see a lot of this going on. But before I get to that, introduce yourself. When did you join the force? What district, what department were you in? And just give a little bit of an elevator pitch of your background.
Okay, this is where it goes. Um, Welcome, everybody. My name's Mark. I'm Tony's dad, very proud dad of Tony. And the police department was not my first choice. At the time, I was working in a machine shop, becoming an apprentice machinist. With the object was to make some good money as a machinist. And then I got laid off. And while I got laid off, my dad, who was a Cleveland police officer as well, said, take the test. Go and take the test. And so me and my cousin went down to the public auditorium in Cleveland. There were 2,000 people there, a sea of people taking the test. And we looked around and we said, I don't have a chance, but I'm going to give it a shot. I'm going to give it a shot.
How many were they hiring, anyways?
Well, there was a hiring freeze, and our mayor at the time was George Voinovich. He was a Republican,
Eventually became governor of Ohio.
and then Voinovich knew that there was an issue. There were crisis there, and the city was led by a guy named George Forbes, and Forbes was basically running the show. And crime was getting so out of hand that the numbers that are staggering now were even worse when I got on the job. So this is 1980, and I think there were three classes. I think they hired about 180 new police officers in 1981. So I took the test in 1980. I was hired August 3rd of 1981. Turns out to be probably the best decision I ever made in my life. It was rewarding and it was fascinating. And I'm glad I pursued it, even though I had no interest in it. My dad was a lifelong Cleveland police officer. We lived in the city of Cleveland. I had no interest in becoming a police officer, none. This wasn't something on my radar. When I
Well,
was
I
a
mean, when you're a kid, there's some people who see what dad's doing. You're like, I want to be just like dad. And then others, it's, I don't want anything to do with what dad is doing. And, my grandfather was around during some of the just most tumultuous times, not just in Cleveland, but in our country. And the political violence that now we're seeing an uptick with, unfortunately. But what we were seeing in the 60s, he was on the beat during that time.
We were, as a family, in 1966 when the riots in Huff, there were riots in 68 in Chicago, there was riots in Detroit.
Those
1960,
riots were not named after former outfielder Mike Huff, were they?
no,
Okay,
Mike Huff, no.
spelled differently.
The Huff riots in 66, and when my dad would leave for work, he would give us a peace sign, and he would say peace, and he really meant it because he was going to war. Now, this is a guy that was a Korean War veteran, so he was used to the situation. But every day we saw him leave for work, and we thought maybe Dad's not coming back. And I was very proud of this guy. I was really proud of him. I just did not want to follow in his footsteps. It wasn't something that was on my mind until the layoffs happened.
And it was you were kind of, what are you going to do? You were going to be a machinist. You wanted to go from you graduate high school, you get a good job, you do this, and then all of a sudden it gets cut out from under you. And it's weird to think that I guess I'll join the force, which is something that usually a lot of people will be a part of that, and then they get laid off, which actually did happen to you. You get laid off again, right? As a cop.
I did. I got on a job in 1981 and got laid off in 1984. A lot of the old time police officers were saying, "Hey, kid, get yourself another job. They're not hiring you guys back anymore." Somehow they found federal money or whatever, and we were rehired. We were rehired back, and again, it was in retrospect, this is the best decision I ever made because it was I got a pension for life now. That's one good thing. And
They're not going to take it away after they hear this podcast, are they?
no, I think I'm safe. I
Okay,
think
good.
I'm
We're
safe
locked in.
because
If O.J. Simpson could get a pension after lopping his wife's head off, I think you can get a pension for saying whatever you want on a podcast.
there was more evidence for OJ. A first year law student would have saw that this whole thing
I
was.
do want to get into that. By the way, so what you're hearing right now is part one of the podcast. Part two of the Patreon, what I'm going to do is we're just going to show police videos, body cam footage, and I'm going to have you comment on what the cops probably could have done better, what the perp, what whoever's getting arrested, what they did wrong. So go check that out. Again, that's patreon.com/Tony Mazur. I will show a couple of videos because I do want to give people a little bit of a taste on the free podcast of how to approach situations, especially in the modern age. But so you were a cop and then you got rehired eventually. How long were you laid off?
7 months.
Okay, so it wasn't like years.
No,
You
no,
weren't
it
like
was
you weren't like Kramer at the bagel shop.
no, 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 no. But I will say that policing, as a rule, has changed, and a lot of that is a result of the federal government and the consent decree that this absolute coward Barack Obama and Eric Holder, the Attorney General, levied on the city of Cleveland. Nonetheless,
It wasn't just on Cleveland, that was just policing in general, right?
other cities have the consent decree. Cleveland's still being governed by it, and I feel bad for these guys out there because there was a poster at one time that circulated throughout the Cleveland Police Department of an officer with handcuffs on, blindfold on, and a ball and chain attached to his leg, and then the caption said, "Now go out and do a good job." And it was profound
I
because,
remember that shirt. You used to wear that all the time.
yeah, it was profound because most of the guys I worked with, most of the guys I worked with were family guys and wanted to do the job. They really wanted to enforce the law in the city of Cleveland. Most of us lived in Cleveland. We had a general interest in it. But things have changed. Now there's always going to be good guys and there's always going to be bad guys. That has never changed. And I work with I counsel with a group of guys that counsel police officers that are struggling because I was struggling myself. I've had numerous bouts with PTSD or whatever. Don't feel bad for me. I'm blessed. I made it through this whole thing. But policing has changed, and I think one of the biggest thing that has changed is the camera, the camera that the body cam that guys are wearing, and that's important. I was against it. I was completely against it. I'm in tight with our union. And it's turned out that the body cam
It's
has
been a saying.
exonerated a lot of police officers.
We'll talk more about that in a little bit, but throughout the 80s you were a cop, but you moved on, you transitioned to another department. So when your dad was a cop, I'm assuming what is a lot of dope heads in the 60s, and then you had started seeing quaaludes and cocaine in the 80s or 70s, but then by the 80s, the drugs started really cranking themselves up, weren't they? That it was crack, it was pills, it was a lot of that going on, thus creating a new department called street enforcement, right?
Right. I was reassigned to the narcotics unit in the Cleveland Police Department, and we had a specialized unit. Um, we were called street enforcement, and it was basically something that'll never be resurrected again because, frankly, we went out and kicked ass. We answered councilmatic complaints or the chief and said, "Hey, we got a problem on this street. We got a problem on this street," and we would go out as a group and just break everything up. So the difference, what's happening now, these young people, they don't run from us anymore. You can say what you want. That was an ultimate sign of respect when they saw our cars rolling. We were unmarked cars. We were wearing jeans. I had a pierced ear and I had long hair and all that stuff. When they saw us coming, they knew to run. They did not want to get caught in the cut.
Well, it's kind of what we saw at the time was that they responded to force. They responded with violence. You're not going to bring a social worker out there like we're seeing nowadays. It's like, no, you don't need cops wearing tactical gear. You need to bring a social worker. Yeah, how's this work? Is it made us safer at all?
Yeah, none of this makes any sense. What we need to do, and because we have cowards in government, we have cowards in the police department, cowards everywhere, we need to bring back total enforcement. That's
What
the only
the
way
old
it's going to
Whitmore
work.
poo, as we call it.
Yeah, yeah, it's what has to happen because these guys know they're not going to get prosecuted. Even if they get arrested, you can't put your hands on them. You got to be real careful because of lawsuits and the city of Cleveland and all other cities, Baltimore, Philadelphia, they're going through this all saying cities pay. They pay off. They're less likely to back the cops and more likely to take the side of the bad guy. And
Why is that? Is that fear of uh, just blowback from judges, from politicians? Like what? Like honestly, what? Why have you're seeing these DAs, the George Soros appointed DAs who are going in there and they're essentially activists. Many of them not even from America. They're not legal citizens, yet they've somehow passed a bar and ended up becoming a judge or a magistrate, and they're letting these career criminals out. I just saw one just the other day, or actually today. There was a guy who was arrested 99 times. And what did he do? He attempted to murder a 60-something-year-old guy. So, meaning his 100th arrest, yet continues to go in and out, in and out. At what, well, not to Fed post or anything, but at what point do you just say, yeah, what happened to three strikes and you're out? At best, at most. And instead, now it's 99 times, and you get a judge saying, no, you're good. We feel that you have been rehabilitated by the state, that we don't believe in this prison pipeline and this and that. And it's like, yeah, I don't think we have enough people behind bars, in my opinion.
well, we will have to put that on them because I know a lot of police officers, and I've been in law enforcement for 44 years.
When this changed, did this happen during when you were a cop? Did this predate you, or is this a recent phenomenon?
No, I would say
Because it
this.
just seems like it's magnified right now.
It started happening in the 90s. Why did it happen in the 90s? I don't know, but we kept seeing it. So the whole thing is because obviously everybody will say, "Oh, well, you're a cop, so you're going to take the cop's side." I'm not one of these guys that just takes everybody's side just because I was a police officer. We go out there and bust our ass and do what we have to do and make the arrest and a good arrest and a solid arrest, and it gets to the prosecution. Prosecutors are less likely to try cases. They rather plea everything out. Thereby, they have no experience to go to an actual trial. And judges, at least in Cleveland, in the Cuyahoga County, our county, the judges are all either Irish Democrats, black Democrats, or whatever. They're all Democrats, and they've given them a pass. Blood is on their hands for everybody that gets that re gets rearrested and rearrested, and they just keep letting them out. And so that has to change. We have to, the cops are doing their job the most for the most
They're
part.
doing what they can.
They're doing what they can uh, with what they have. Now their equipment is better. They got tasers. They have body armor. When I came on the job, body armor was not. We didn't have body armor. We had Model 10s, which are a six-shot revolver, and that's in 1981. And while everybody else, every other city already was going to semi-automatic weapons, we were still in the Stone Age. But
Yeah, you
we're
were using pea shooters at
Yeah,
that
we were
time.
held hostage by this George Forbes, who was a black Democrat, big time Democrat. And not that he was black, but he was. And he represented the black community more than he represented the city of Cleveland.
Yeah, he was pretty infamous of going toe to toe with other politicians, with the cops, with even media members as well. But a lot of corruption was going on in Cleveland at the time. But goodness gracious, it was. I mean, because like I see the change in you mentioned about the wardrobe. Is that growing up? I remembered you when it was like kind of black on black or whatever, or you would see the cops with a light blue shirt and dark pants, and now it looks like they're going to war every day because they're going to war every day.
They truly are going to war every day. At one time, when my dad was on a job, these federal morons decided that Cleveland police officers will wear light blue uniforms. The light blue uniforms just glowed in the dark and made them
Yeah,
targets.
you may as well have made him high vis.
It was
Like
you might
like when Joe Biden used to talk about the deer wearing the Kevlar.
Yeah.
Anyways.
But we went to the dark blue uniforms when I got transitioned about 1982 to the dark blue uniforms. But that was fine. That was fine. I enjoyed one of the things I really did was enjoy wearing that uniform and representing the city of Cleveland. I really did. I was a all in Cleveland guy. I had these visions that I was gonna make a difference in the city of Cleveland. I really truly thought that. And then I realized early on that I'm not going to quit, but I realized I'm not stopping the
There's just
flow
what you
of
could do.
drugs but we were in the narcotics unit, and we had a lot of big time investigations that took us throughout the entire city. I actually was involved in the largest marijuana bust that came up from Texas in a semi-tractor trailer. And actually, it's the biggest one in the state of Ohio. This is not bragging about me. I just was involved in that with a group of
Is this
task
like
force
where
officers.
they had a Getty Images photo we bought on eBay for you, or which one was that?
No, no, this one,
Because you were in the paper a bunch of times, but yeah, there was one that we purchased like a full photo of you that you were in the paper, right?
yeah, 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 we did. I just, as a matter of fact, just looked at it in my.
There are times you were in the paper. We won't talk about that because it was not as positive. But yeah, that was a good one.
I had a colorful career. I like to bust balls. I like to have fun, but I was also involved in very serious stuff,
Well,
and I'm
because you were
proud of it.
you were at a time like you said with your dad because you're dealing with the Detroit riots up there and the Watts riots in Los Angeles, and we had Huff and Glenville here. And then you had your own wars going on because when crack cocaine really hit Cleveland sometime in the mid to late 80s, that it mixed in with that time where people are in angel dust and all these other just mix of this whole thing of drugs that they were on. They were turning into superhumans. And it was taking more than just like one guy to try to take somebody down. You couldn't even use a taser or the billy club, like I said, the wood shampoo that you had to do things by any means necessary at that time.
It's true, and crack hit Cleveland around 1987, 88. I was in what they call the fourth district at the time. It's the southeast side of Cleveland, and my car was car 411. And anybody in Cleveland knows 411 because it was the projects car. It was Garden Valley Projects. Garden Valley sounds nice, doesn't it? It truly
Ooh,
was.
Cabrini Green, that sounded great too.
It truly was not nice.
I
But
love Cabrini.
so when we started seeing crack hit Garden Valley, we hit the projects, and we were going nuts. It was out. There was crack on every corner. Everybody was slinging dope, and it was foot chases. Kept me in pretty decent shape. It was foot chases every day. Well, I got recognized by my lieutenant who recommended me for the narcotics unit because of the amount of narcotic arrests I was making. So that's when I went to the narcotics unit. And it's different now because when I went there and I got interviewed, the sergeants that interviewed asked me two questions. Can I run and can I fight? And I was like, yeah, if I need to. You go, okay, good. You're in street enforcement.
Wow, okay.
And
What a
so,
job interview that
yeah,
is.
what a job interview. Another guy asked me,
I think my when I worked at Penn Station, the sub place, I think my interview is a little bit more comprehensive than
yeah,
that.
it was unbelievable. And the other sergeant that, oh, actually, he was a lieutenant, asked me, "Can you drink with us?" And I was like, "Yeah, I'll do that too." They
It's
said,
camaraderie. Well, because that's the one thing that people should realize is with being cops, it's just the way when you deal with pro sports. So when you're on a sports team, could be high school, college, or even pro, a football team, you're dealing with camaraderie. You're picking up your guy. He's fallen, you pick him up. You're not. This isn't every man for himself. So yeah, if the guys are going out for a beer afterward, it's not like you're just doing it so to get hammered. You're dealing so because you saw a lot of crazy stuff out
I,
there, and it's a way to kind of clear your mind a little bit, hang out with the guys. Yeah, is it boorish? Are cops known for being philanderers, whatever? Yeah, it happens, unfortunately. Not justifying it, but you guys see so much destruction, so much death, the most evil aspects of society. So yeah, okay, it's 6 o'clock in the morning. You're going to go to that third shift bar and have a couple of drinks before you head home.
well, the word camaraderie is exactly right. We worked so closely as a team that when we did we went to picnics together with our wives. We did a lot of stuff together, but it was a unifying thing, and it kept us tight, kept us strong. We had a platoon sergeant that was a Vietnam veteran, and he never liked to use SWAT. He was the kind of guy that said, "We can do this. We're men. We can hit a door. When we hit a dangerous house and hit a door, we would do it." What that did, we all had responsibilities. When we hit a door and burst that door, two guys went upstairs, two guys went this way, and we made it. It
Now
was
you
almost,
you were in the front, right? Didn't you cover the door?
I was the door guy. I'd hit the door.
The
Um,
doorman.
yeah, I hit the door.
Spoken Seinfeld reference
So,
today.
so once the guys went past me and went up and around, then I would secure the living room and the area that was within my purview. But the point of it is, we did it so cohesively, it became second nature that even the SWAT guys used our tactics because, and you could only do that as if you were a team, and we were a team. At one time, we were well recognized in the city of Cleveland. The mayor at the time, this little tiny Mike White, his name was, actually called us into his office and told each one of us that he was going to put us in jail. There were signs in City Hall that protested our group, our team, and it's crazy. It's reminiscent of what they're doing now with President Trump, and they're protesting the ICE going into Chicago. These morons, but um, we did the job. We knew we were doing the job. We were really, really, just using the term again. We were ass kickers. We were some badass guys, and not just me. We had some really, really, really tough guys, and and you had to be able to run, and you had to be able to fight. And we actually, if we weren't going out drinking, after what we saw, we would go for 5 mile runs at night around Cleveland Stadium, all the way on the lakefront, just because you had to have something in the tank when you caught some 16-year-old and then he wants to fight. Man, you got to have something in your tank to fight back. And we
The
did.
adrenaline rush. And you got to calm down at some point. And if you're at that point where you're going on 5 mile runs just to calm down, because this is the one thing that really bothered me. So, not to tell tales out of school, but there was this situation that happened about 11 years ago with Tamir Rice. And Tamir Rice was at Cadell Rec Center. Tamir Rice was he 12? Was that
12 career criminal, 12.
so he was 12 years old, but he was over 6 foot. He looked like an adult, and he shaved off the orange tip of it was an airsoft gun or
Yeah,
something.
yep.
And they're supposed to have the orange tip because it's to differentiate between a not an actual gun. Well, if you shave that off, now it looks like an actual gun. So somebody calls the police and say, "Hey, there's a man who's waving a gun in the park." They don't realize that he's 12. They don't realize that it's not a real gun, but still somebody calls that they see a problem. And so when police are the cruiser pulls up, and instead of Tamir Rice having a brain cell to drop the gun, whatever he had, and put his hands up, he goes for his waistband. Now, I don't know what maybe he's pulling his pants up. I don't know what he's trying to do, but you have that quick to make that decision, or else you're dead. And you went to how many cop funerals for a situation where if you wait that 1 second, that is life and death. So Tim Lohman, who is the cop who's been just put through the ringer. I feel so bad for the guy looks like he's 20 years older than me, and he and I are the same age.
Yeah, he's a solid guy. He's
And
put into an impossible position.
but when somebody's going for their waistband, what else are you going to do? And yet I'm seeing all these armchair cops are like, actually, I would have talked him down and brought him home, and I would have done this, I would have done that. And the problem is, unlike a sporting event, for example, if you're a football fan, you see a quarterback throw an interception, you would say, "Oh, I would have just thrown that out of bounds. Why did he force that?" Well, of course he forced it. Of course you're going to say that because you're not in that position. You're not making millions. You're not a quarterback. You're also not a cop, so you don't know what a cop is dealing with. You don't know what they came from, what's on their mind, and in that split second, you can't sit there and go, "Actually, I would have calmed down the situation." So you're dealing with that stress, and yet that's what we've been dealing with for the last, what, 13, 14 years now, of this defund the police movement, this we need to abolish the police departments, get rid of them, have social services, have whatever. It clearly hasn't worked to the point where places like Oakland and Chicago and Detroit have had to refund their police departments because crime has been running rampant. And even worse, that the FBI, that they're not reporting their proper crime statistics to the FBI. So it's when Baltimore's like, actually, crime's down 66%. Yeah, what's your metric? We just made it up. Trust me, bro, is basically what's going on. So this is, it's all politics, isn't it?
It is. It is. I think President Trump got rid of the Bureau of Statistics person because the statistics that were coming out of D.C., not just for policing, but for everything, they've been lying about it. They've been lying to him. They've been lying to all of us, the American people. It's unbelievable. But as it relates to the police department, now we also, our homicide rates may be down slightly, but we also, EMS has better techniques to keep people alive than we did just 40 years ago.
Also, the Steve Saylor method, where he says that if you're seeing especially large groups in urban areas, and they say, 47 people shot, one dead. That means somebody's just spraying into a crowd at that point.
Yeah, they're
And what
just
you said about modern technology is that people are able to save lives a little better than bleeding out or getting gangrene as they would decades ago.
I have said this to a lot of people. I've had a lot of disagreements with other cops. The protests in Seattle and Portland, and I always ask myself, what happened to the cops? What are they doing? They're standing down because they're afraid of they're losing their pension.
Some were kneeling.
What? Some were kneeling. That happened.
That was disgusting.
That actually happened in Cleveland. However, we were taught there's a what they call a asp baton that when you shake it out, it expands and it's metal,
So it's like an umbrella.
not an
Well,
umbrella.
it expands like an umbrella, right?
Yeah, yeah, but it's a nightstick that expands. Anyway, you go through training. They call it a red man training because the red man is wearing a protected suit. So the Supreme Court ruled years ago that you can strike somebody with this aspeton and not get sued. One of the areas is behind the legs. Obviously not in the head. You wouldn't hit somebody with a metal object in the head, but in the behind the knees, at the elbow level, you can do this. My question has always been because there's no consequences for these idiots that are protesting and spitting on cops and throwing frozen water bottles.
Milk and
Why
eggs.
why don't we just start whacking them. And I'm not talking about killing them. I'm talking about make it hurt. You want to come and protest? Fine. You start assaulting us, you're going to get hurt.
But
You
that's
need
where
to get
you're
hurt.
seeing the Ben Crumps of the world, and you see all these
But we
ambulance
got.
chasers.
I'm tired of Ben Crump and all these
Al
guys
Sharpton for years was doing that same thing, the same
because
routine.
they're not doing anything. They're doing to enhance their bank account. They don't care about the black community. If they did, they would do something in Chicago or they'd do something about in Baltimore or in all the other
A
cities.
lot of it is race grifting because it's a way that I mean, what was Black Lives Matter? It's buy large mansions, BLM. And that's all they did is they just grifted off of guilty white people who donated to them. If you really cared about black on black crime or the black community, you would see where all the violence is happening. And instead, they're going after Daniel Penny, they're going after Derek Chauvin, because it's an easy payday. They know they're going to get a lot of media coverage because they only focus on that very small percentage of white on black quote unquote crime. And that's all they focus on instead of the other way of the Ukrainian girl who stabbed on the train because of lax on crime policing and what was going on in Charlotte, North Carolina, and all these other places. It's very disturbing.
I think the Ukrainian girl, don't take it this the wrong way, but the Charlie Kirk thing, he knew there was a lot of things going on. He had threats against him. This young lady who emigrated from Ukraine, who just gets arbitrarily stabbed to death by this guy, and he feels nothing, makes a comment about I got this white girl or whatever he said. I think it's more heinous than Charlie Kirk. And I think it needs to be played up. I think it should stay on the minds of everybody until they fry this kid, because and he was wasn't he another 19-time arrest guy or
Yeah, he
something?
was 14. And then
There's
there
a
was another one recently where the I played on my podcast last week about the father of I forgot what her name is.
5'3", 115-pound girl that got killed by this guy.
Another career criminal.
Yeah.
Another one over and over and over again, and we keep hearing this, and yet it's we don't want to have these conversations. We don't
Well,
want to do it because we're afraid to be called racist. You're afraid of just the labels. I'm honestly tired of it.
who cares? Why do we start? Who cares what people call you? I don't care what people call me. I don't. When I listen to Tony's podcasts and I know there's opposition, and I went, call him out for it, but tell him where he's wrong, where he's not telling the truth. I don't like, I like to be called a realist. What you see, these during the riots in 2020, the CNN is broadcasting these are peaceful riots with fire behind them and the places
Fiery,
not,
but mostly peaceful, yes.
and you go, they're trying to convince us that we can't believe our eyes. Well, we got to stop doing that. We have to stop doing. All
We're
of us have. It's our responsibility as Americans.
we're living in an information war because it's a propaganda war that's been going on for a long time, but we now live in a digital age of not only because we have now the body cam footage, which is great, but before for years we had camcorders and eventually cell phone camera, and it would conveniently start at the wrong time. The situation has already escalated to the point where it's usually that's where we keep hearing about my baby died because he didn't have his blinker on. And it's like, that's not exactly what happened. But if you start the video that somebody was recording at some point, then you get that narrative out there, and people will believe that original story until even if you present them with extra evidence, they're gonna be like, well, I saw what I saw.
Well, it's the media that's
It's the
complicit.
same thing with with George Floyd is you will even hear conservatives, people on the right will say, I saw what I saw, and I saw that man dig his knee into the back of George Floyd's neck and he's crying out for mama. And I said, if I presented you evidence that to the contrary, that that was in the handbook, that that was a proper restraint, that it wasn't on the back of his neck, that George Floyd was basically dying of a fentanyl overdose mixed with excited delirium for not being a healthy man, and his heart was racing because he believes he's going to prison for a long time. And also mixed in the fact that when he's calling out for mama, that was his girlfriend's nickname. I can present you with all that, and people are like, I don't care. It's like, here's my evidence. I'm going to set it on fire. I believe the original story. So what we're seeing now is an information war. And you're wondering what kind of narrative is going to go out there. Oh, Charlie Kirk's assassin was from his family was conservative. They liked Trump and they were Christian. So clearly he was killed by a MAGA Republican. And my response to that is, well, Charlie Kirk was a Trump guy. Why would another Trump guy kill a Trump
Yeah,
guy?
yeah.
Run
These
through
morons.
this whole thing. But they don't. They just believe what somebody in this bubble will tell them instead of seeing the facts, letting a story play out a little bit. Like Jussie Smollett is a perfect example, or the Covington Catholic, which I've covered numerous times on this podcast. All of that, it was when presented with different evidence. So that was going on with the Jacob Blake thing, George Floyd, um, with what's her name from Louisville.
Louisville, yeah.
Um, that situation, you had Ahmaud Arbery, you had
He was a track star wearing work boots,
yes,
wasn't
that's
he?
right.
Yeah, yeah. And then the girl in
Incident
Louisville
of
was,
armed robbery
yeah,
also.
yeah. The girl in Louisville was a human shield because of her boyfriend.
Breonna Taylor's her
Yeah,
name.
Breonna. So
Yeah, because he shot first through when they were doing that no knock raid and all this, and then of course you have Michael Brown all the way back to Trayvon Martin. All of these tensions were created. By the way, pre Donald Trump, by the way. So it's now you can't just blame him for rhetoric.
But again, I said it just before though, this media is complicit on this. Not just the obvious one, MSNBC and stuff. Our local media, everybody is inward to this for the destruction of the American people, of peace. We will all President Trump has talks about peace. That's all we want. I'm grateful that I retired from the police department with my skin, that I'm still alive. I want peace. I don't want to fight with anybody anymore. I don't want to do that. And yet it seems to always come up. And when it comes up, it grabs me. It grabs me. And I really, I want to go down. I want to join the Border Patrol. This is a $50,000 bonus to join.
Exactly. Well, I mean, it's it's bad out there. Here, let me hold this really quick and pop those earbuds in. I'm going to play a couple of videos because I want you to see how an officer what they have to deal with on a daily basis, basically, and how would you react to a situation as a being on the force for 24 plus years, nearly a quarter century. You've been retired now for 20 years, basically exactly 20 years, right?
Well, you could say that, but I just retired in August working with the Cleveland Metropolitan School District Police Department. And so I've never left Cleveland. I've never left the degradation of the city of Cleveland.
Yeah, you've always had a foot in this.
Yeah,
So for basically 45 years almost, you have been around the as far as
I've been in
safety,
law
whether it's
enforcement.
cyber safety, whether it's in security, whether it's
Yeah, I've been in
all of
law
it.
enforcement for 44 years.
Okay, so explain to me. So I'm going to play this video here. I'm sharing it right now for the folks. Um, what happens here, and what would you do differently?
Niggas take all that off and do that without none of that. Do that
I don't know what's going
without
on.
none of that. Do it without none of that. Do it without none of that. Do it without none of that. I dare you to do it without any of this. You're not tough. You're not tough. You're not tough. You're doing that because you got your badge on. Take it off and try that. Yo, you're not, yo. What am I coming in for?
Y'all bugging, man.
What am I coming in for?
Wildin', use of authority, yo. Y'all wildin',
I dare you to
So how was that arrest? Was that textbook? I mean, he's insulting him. What's your badge number? All that, and said, "Yeah, all right, I'm tired of this."
So at a certain point, you're supposed to be able to take it. You're supposed to be able to take people
Until somebody's spitting on you,
verbal
or
insults. Yeah,
and by the way, is spitting considered assault?
absolutely it
Okay,
is.
just putting that out there.
You could have a disease. You could have AIDS. You could be,
You
it's
could have COVID.
you could have
I've,
COVID.
I've heard COVID is the deadliest disease of our time. But anyways,
But you can only, so this happened to me, personally happened to me, I don't know how many times. My partners used to drive me crazy. They would go, the bad guy would say, you didn't have your gun on. You didn't have that badge on, I'd kick your ass. And I go, and I would pull off my gun belt and throw it on the ground and I go, let's go, MFer. And then they would back down because they knew I wasn't screwing around. And again, I'm not a tough guy, but I'm not going to back down to one of these little 14-year-old little assholes that want to fight. And so what you do is you jump bad into their face. Now you could see that he's surrounded. The police officers are surrounded by his friends,
And now they have their camera
and now the
phones.
cameras are out. So the thing is, for me, now I don't care. I didn't do anything wrong. You want to suspend me, whatever, for doing my job, then fine. He's there for a reason. That we don't see the whole video, but that police officer and his partner are there for a reason.
Yeah, they're not there because they feel like harassing black people today.
No,
They would ideally here, this is, I think, one of the biggest misnomers is that they believe someone like a Derek Chauvin woke up that morning and chose violence. That he woke up going like, I want to do this to a black person today. That I want to pick them off for sport, which is not true, obviously. None of it's true. A cop would love to have an easy day where you're just doing paperwork and you're sitting in the office, right? It's not like the TV shows where everyone's shooting guns off. Most cops don't even draw their weapon anyways, right?
a lot of them for their entire career. I wasn't that lucky, but I thought he used some restraint. We don't know what happened before. How long was he taking the insults? But at a certain point, now you're going. And we had what they call DCI, which is disorderly conduct intox. You could take them.
Yeah. Okay, let me play another video on how you would have handled this. Now, you were in a time where we started seeing the lady cops that started up during your time, and now it's pretty commonplace that they're hiring a lot of females. A lot of the kick-ass little girls and stuff with tattoos.
Actually,
But
prior to 1980, we had standards, height, weight standards, and they got rid of that in 1979 in
hey, Pete
Cleveland.
Hegseth's bringing it back to the military.
Well, good,
We
good.
even though Norman Schwarzkopf wasn't the thinnest, fittest person, but yeah, we decided to have men wearing dresses in the military for a while. But thankfully, we're getting over that. But these places, we're still having a lot of we're having the female cops. So, what would you have done differently in this situation?
Any weapons in the vehicle?
Yeah.
What kind of weapons?
This is a registered firearm in my name.
Okay.
Yeah, Smith and Wesson.
Okay. Just go ahead and keep your hands on the steering wheel
Yeah.
for me. Can I talk to you for 1 second? Just keep your hands on the wheel, okay?
Just because you got a firearm in the car, okay, we're just going to do this the safe way, okay? So what I need you to do, can you undo your seatbelt for me?
Can I call the supervisor, please?
What?
I would like your
Well, no,
supervisor.
you can talk to him afterwards.
Sir, I would like your
Okay,
supervisor.
we're going to talk to him afterwards.
I,
But now
I
you need
need.
to do what
Well,
I
can you
am
call
telling
him on
to
your
do.
radio?
Huh?
Can you call him on your radio? He's not trying to call
Hey,
his supervisor on the radio.
listen, we're
Okay,
trying to
I'm a citizen too, bro.
Okay,
It's like,
hey.
and you work for public and safety. You're doing your
Hey,
job. What's your
hey,
cause?
hey,
What's your
calm down,
cause?
calm down.
What's your cause of stopping me? Is what I want to know. You didn't even give me a cause. You said for your 10. I told you I got
That's
a ticket.
probable cause to pull you over, right?
Okay.
Just because you...
Whoa. That's
Put your hands
way. Whoa. Are you
Raise your
serious?
fingers on the back of your head.
We've got code 3 cover coding.
Whoa.
Okay. Undo your seatbelt.
Okay, so let's before the escalation with the girl pulling out the gun there. Why are you stopping me? Call your supervisor. I know you probably heard that one 10,000 times in your life. Call
Yeah,
your supervisor. Where's your supervisor? Call him on the radio. What is a cop allowed to do in that situation? Is he obligated to do it, or is he so pissed off? I can do whatever I want here. This is not a democracy right now.
you don't need a supervisor on the scene of any a traffic stop. Hang on a second.
Yeah, go for it. There you go.
You don't need
We're all dealing with our allergies right now.
You're actually a supervisor on the scene. When you're the police officer on the scene, you're the authority. You don't need a supervisor. You could tell the guy, I'll call my supervisor, call my regional sergeant. But right now, this is what we're doing. You explain everything to the person. I'm not sure there's he put his hands on. I get he's being a little belligerent, but
yeah, he's got his camera there.
he's got his camera.
He's playing it up.
He's doing it for the camera. I'm not sure that she needed to pull her gun out.
Yeah, that's because I've noticed that with a lot of these female cops is that their de-escalation tactics are lacking in many ways.
Yeah.
It could be anecdotal. I'm sure there's great female cops out there, but I've noticed that I've seen plenty of videos where they were pulling their taser and they pulled their gun on someone.
Yeah.
And you go, oops, shoot, that was supposed to be my taser, or whatever the case is. And then others where it's like two lady cops trying to take down a guy, and he's just laughing the whole time because they can't take it's. I don't want to get you in trouble because I'm sure you know female cop friends and stuff like that, but I think that experiment is not unless you're somebody like you said, if you can meet the height and weight and the strength standards of a police department, I don't think we should be parading you out there just to check a couple of boxes.
No, I agree with you 100%. You see this guy's hands on his head. If I was a police officer and I knew the guy has a firearm in the car, I could draw faster than he could reach down into his waistband or wherever it's at if I need to get my weapon.
The Waco Kid.
So
That's the only one.
so at this point, that's not a de-escalation technique. I mean, you do verbal, we train verbal de-escalation. Sometimes it works. Sometimes it does work. It talks people down. But there's no reason for her to pull out her weapon that quickly.
Yeah, that was a little much.
Matter of fact, that you could see this guy's already going, whoa, way too much, man.
Even, I would assume her partner, the male cop, is probably like,
Yeah, because he's on the other side of
because
her.
then you're going to look at probably a payout at some point and a suspension or whatever the case is, and then he's going to be implicated and he's going to have to go to court and he's going to have a bunch of paperwork too, right?
Yeah, yep. I wouldn't have done that, but
Speaking of court, the last one I'll play because you've been in a lot of courtrooms. You've been
testified
subpoenaed
thousands of times.
many times, and you've probably seen maybe some criminals who are sympathetic that they were caught in the moment, schizophrenic, and don't realize what they did. Others are happy that they killed that person. They would kill again if they were given another opportunity. What would you do in this case where this gentleman who has a Pittsburgh Pirates P tattooed on his cheek, and uh, he murdered, I think, murdered a girl, and the mother there, he's blowing kisses at her and mocking her. What would you do in this situation? And then mocking the judge. And what would you do in this situation? Not just with him, but how the judge in this case seems to be treating him with kid gloves and scolding the victim's mother.
Look at me, ma'am.
He keeps
Ma'am, I told you once before. Let me please help you understand.
Because I can.
Well,
Because I can. It's not a crime to smell.
I mean,
it's
smile.
not a crime to
Continue
smile,
what you were saying.
but it doesn't help you, all right, to irritate people.
All right.
And you have a lot at stake in this case.
It's not a crime to smell, is it?
I didn't say you were committing a
Okay
crime.
then.
I'm saying you're
Continue
not
what you were
helping
saying.
yourself.
Continue what you were saying.
I'm
I'm allowed
done.
to smell.
I would suggest
All
you
right.
do what helps
Okay.
you, not what hurts you.
Okay.
That's
Do what I
all.
want to do.
Well,
Let's
do
get
what
that
you want to do.
understood.
That's fine.
Let's get that understood.
I'm sorry.
Let's get that understood.
Well, you've made
All
that
right.
abundantly
Continue what you
clear.
were saying about the motions.
Okay.
All right.
I'm saying I want to have a hearing on it, and we'll be happy to give you a date when we can come back and talk about that. Is there work we need to do to be ready for that hearing, or we basically have what work needs to be done?
Judge, we haven't received their motion.
But we
yet,
haven't,
so-
yeah, we haven't filed the petition yet. Judge, we wanted to have a date from Your Honor. We have some exhibits. Some of them may be lengthy, so we're trying to get all that.
So what would you have done in that situation?
First of all, the judge is a sissy. He's a coward. You call the deputies in or who's ever overseeing that courtroom and you go, cuff this guy and get him out of here. He's
Put a muzzle on
insolent.
him.
You could duct tape him, but you don't take that crap from
I'm assuming you've probably seen that in a courtroom, right?
Yeah.
They're mouthing off to the judge. But what do you normally do? You take him out. You take him out, you muzzle him, and then
you take him out. You
Yeah.
just get him out of there. Because especially you have a victim family that's going through a lot right now, and this guy's mocking him. The judge has got to recognize it, say, okay, enough. That's enough. We're not doing this anymore. And he keeps saying something. Deputies, let's go. Cuff him.
instead
Shackle him.
Instead, because he has obviously no sympathy for the
One of the
victim.
problems with the judges, this Boasberg, all these judges that are ruling in favor of the left are the ones destroying this country, just like that moron. That guy's got to go. You achieve the status of being a judge, and then you take crap from people like that, from these animals that are illiterate. They're
I mean, he's demanding.
And-
It's like you understood. You understood That's not the judge saying that. That's the criminal. That's the guy. He's like, you understand me, and the judge like, yes, sir, I understand you. It's like,
Yeah,
shut up.
yeah, that doesn't.
Just smashes. I mean, honestly, it. I'm trying not to say horrible things right
No,
now, but it's obvious what should happen, and we coddle these criminals in this society. They provide nothing for us. They provide nothing to us, and yet we have to sit there and the judge is more. I don't know, he's trying to scold the victims for getting mad that he's blowing kisses at the mother. Like, yeah, I don't care. I killed your daughter. I'd kill you too if I get an opportunity. And the judge is like, now you miss, you need to calm yourself down. Hey there, toots. Hold your horses. It's just this stuff has to stop. This is the only way. We have to reverse this in the next couple of years. Otherwise, you're going to see the border flooded. You're going to see more lawlessness going on in these blue cities. Let's be honest, they're blue cities. All these major cities are blue. They look the other way with crime. Uh, they look the other way with illegals who are squatting in their towns. It's disturbing what we are dealing with right now, and yet we see average citizens that are getting arrested for, well, they were in the previous administration for having a toe on the apron of the driveway of a Planned Parenthood and putting them in prison for 10 years because they quote unquote blocked access to reproductive health care for women. And it's like they're clearly political prisoners. We saw that with Jan 6. We saw this everywhere. All of this stuff needs to be, sorry, but all this stuff needs to be reversed. And until then, we're just going to see more of this.
This is a
So
product of Harvard Law, Michigan Law, the University of Michigan, Cleveland State, Marshall College Law. All the colleges of law are teaching this now.
well, and also
Everybody that's coming out now that's becoming a judge has been oriented in the liberal way, and we got to rehabilitate. We have
this is the Civil Rights
yeah,
Act.
yeah,
This has been going on since the Civil Rights Movement
yeah.
until they make strides. Now, apparently, I saw this the other day that the community services relations, the ones that when like a white teenager gets stabbed at a track meet, and they go to the white family and tell them, "Oh, hey, here's a list of things you don't want to blame the victim, you don't want to blame the race, and you do all that." Well, apparently, they finally abolished that department. It's about time, but
Good.
it was created in the wake of the civil rights movement. And a lot of that stuff just, I mean, I know it's a third rail subject talking about the civil rights movement and civil rights act and everything, but has it made, first of all, has it made the black community more prosperous? Has it made us safer? You could say, well, crime has gone down. Well, again, it depends on who's reporting the crime. It depends on what kind of crime it is. If it's a shooting that, yeah, in the 1960s, our technology was more archaic than it is now. So you can be saved from a bullet wound as opposed to what it was in, say, 1965. So I don't know. I mean, it's tough times, and that's why I feel for the cops. And actually, I'll give you the last word here. What is your advice to somebody who is either a young cop or who it might be interested in joining a police force? Since we have seen the blue flu the last couple of years, a lot of people even retiring before or they're leaving before their retirement. They were going to get their full pension. They say, I can't take it anymore. What's your advice to either young police officers or wannabe police officers going forward?
So we talk to people, we talk to police officers all the time, our group. We've talked to police officers that have experienced, we had a couple of police officers killed this past year, and we talked to their roll calls, and we talked to everybody there. The advice always is, first and foremost, this is a noble profession. Remember that you guys, men and women, are involved in a noble profession. Good guys versus bad guys. Good guys always win. Keep that
They
in mind.
should. They should win.
Keep that in mind that this is a noble profession, and we need you. We need every one of you in law enforcement to step up, and they have. The problem with you're being governed by um, a consent decree, or even Cleveland developed this.
Activist politicians, activist judges, activist
Well,
DAs, even activist police chiefs.
Cleveland now has an overseer, civilian overseers of the police department that get paid inordinate amounts of money. I'm saying if you want to be a police officer or a military guy, things are changing. They have to change. They can't get any worse. Stay the course. It's a good job. It's a good job. And I advised one young man that was suspended for doing. He got involved in something. It's a long story. I told him, listen, you did the right thing. The department's coming down on you for some other reason. Just stay within yourself and do the right thing. And even if you get sued, if whatever, you could stand up for doing the right thing. The police department is the way is a no matter where you're at, what city in the United States, it's a great profession. And we could make cities safer with pro law enforcement, pro
You also need a good sheriff, though, because that we saw that during COVID, a lot of the sheriffs were like, "Yeah, I'm not enforcing social
the county
distancing.
sheriffs are
You got
important.
your mind."
That,
They're probably our most important, if you want to call them politicians, but especially in law enforcement,
they
way
they
more,
they
way
have
better.
they have more power than we had within the city, the confines of the city of Cleveland. They had the entire county, and those guys are very important. We worked hand in hand with them, but also ATF, FBI, DEA. We worked with all those guys, and at one time we were making a difference, and I think we still can. As a dedicated police officer, when you take that oath, um, dedicate yourself to the police department. But you also have a family, and your family suffers too when you're away from them on night shift or working all night. Or so we have to do a better job of advising guys, men and women, when they get on a job to be good police officers, to know Ohio criminal code, know where you're supposed to go, but also take care of your wife and kids, your family at home. That's ultimately important too. It makes you a well-rounded person and a well-rounded police officer. It makes you well-adjusted. I think if we follow those, it's a great job to continue doing the right things for this country.
That's why I got into radio. Well, Dad, Mark Mazur, I appreciate you being on the podcast here. I don't have a lot of in-studio guests, but usually when I do, they're also related to me, my wife. Although I did have Chad here, I might have other people. But Dad, thank you for joining me here on the Check Your Brain podcast.
I enjoyed this. This was good. It was just a conversation, and I've got 80 million different things to say.
There's a lot of stories because it could implicate other people. There's stories that you've told me that we don't won't go on the record with. It's a lot of like bar stories, like, hey, what about this guy and everything. We could talk about that, but it's not the time. I wanted to talk about modern policing as opposed to what you guys had to deal with, and what we're seeing out there on, as we call them, these streets. And by the way, like I said earlier, if you want to go over to my Patreon at patreon.com/Tony Mazur, it's behind a paywall, so you're gonna have to pay me. But we're going to have a part two with this conversation. I have a bunch of body cam footage, so I wanted to get. I gave a little teaser in this in this podcast of some of the stuff on the street, but I wanted to show body cam footage and how a police officer would respond in certain situations. So go check that out again, patreon.com/Tony Mazur. The rest of you, I'll be back with you next week with another free podcast. But again, thank you, Dad, for being on. And by the way, we're recording this October 2nd. Happy anniversary to you and Mom.
It's my 43rd anniversary. We made it. Pray for the police department. Pray for our first responders. And when I say pray, I mean pray, not just
Not
like
EY,
like the con like
that's
the
been going on.
Congress says. Well, we're praying for you. No, pray for them because pray for their safety because they're our first responders. Thanks.
That was Mark Mazur. I'm Tony Mazur. I'll be back with you next week with the Check Your Brain podcast, another free episode. Again, the rest of you will be on Patreon at patreon.com/Tony Mazur. Bye, everyone.